The sugar that heals. Why did we erase this ancient superfood? Deep within the arid expanse of the Sonoran Desert, an ancient marvel once sustained life for millennia, holding a secret as golden as its fruit. For an astounding 4,000 years, the unassuming mesquite tree provided sustenance for civilizations in a landscape where conventional agriculture faltered. Its pods, a treasure trove of nutrients, were the lifeblood of communities, offering a sweetness and a source of protein that allowed them to flourish. Yet, in a mere century, this invaluable resource was systematically dismantled, reviled as a mere weed, and ruthlessly cleared from the land. However, beneath the seemingly barren surface, a profound resilience simmered, a testament to nature's enduring power. This is the remarkable narrative of mesquite, a tree that offered unparalleled sweetness long before the advent of refined sugar and may very well hold the key to our future survival. Our journey begins in the heart of the Sonoran Desert, near Tucson, Arizona, where the earth has yielded astonishing archaeological finds. In 1998, excavators unearthed clay jars, sealed for 4,000 years, containing mesquite seeds that remarkably remained viable, still capable of germination after an epic span of time. The ancient peoples who meticulously preserved these seeds possessed no written language, yet their understanding of this desert jewel far surpassed our own forgotten knowledge. In an environment where corn crops succumbed to the relentless sun and rivers dwindled to dust, the mesquite tree remained a steadfast provider, a veritable fortress of life. Its roots, a marvel of natural engineering, plunged over 100 feet into the earth, reaching depths far exceeding any well and dwarfing the reach of the most severe drought. Scientific investigations later revealed that these incredible roots could store as much as 600 gallons of water, an astonishing reservoir sufficient to see the tree through 10 long, arid summers. The fruit of the mesquite tree was no less miraculous. Each golden pod was a perfectly balanced package containing 35% natural sugars, complete protein, and soluble fiber. The very air surrounding a grove of flowering mesquite trees was perfumed with the inviting aromas of caramel and smoke. When the pods were ground into a fine flour, they possessed an extraordinary shelf life, remaining unspoiled for months on end, a stark contrast to many modern food preservation challenges. The Tohono O'odham people, deeply connected to their desert home, aptly named it "our sugar," a sentiment echoed by the Pima, Yaqui, and other indigenous groups who recognized its profound value. For countless generations, families would gather the fallen pods, a bounty showering from the branches like life-giving rain. These were then crushed, transforming into a soft, nourishing flour that sustained entire villages through lean times. The arrival of Spanish explorers in 1535 marked a turning point in the mesquite's story, initially met with awe and wonder. Alvar Núñez Cabeza de Vaca, a Spanish explorer, described pods that possessed a sweetness akin to pure honey itself. He meticulously documented families grinding the pods into a meal, from which they baked cakes that provided sustenance throughout the harsh winter months, truly earning the tree its moniker, the Tree of Life. By 1541, another explorer recorded vast forests of mesquite stretching across the Rio Grande, their canopies so dense they created their own shaded ecosystems, providing a sanctuary for entire villages that lived and thrived beneath their protective branches. This generous tree offered its bounty freely, demanding nothing in return. However, the mesquite's idyllic existence was destined to change, giving way to a far darker chapter. By the late 1800s, the land underwent a significant transformation as new ownership brought with it vast cattle ranches and a focus on lucrative crops like cotton, driven by a spirit of conquest. To these newcomers, the mesquite was no longer the life-sustaining tree of legend. It was merely an impediment, a weed obstructing their path to profit and expansion. The arrival of colonists also introduced sugar cane from distant lands, along with the infrastructure of mills and plantations, systems designed for control and monoculture. Mesquite, which grew wild and abundant, requiring no irrigation or individual ownership, found itself fundamentally incompatible with this new economic paradigm. Consequently, millions of acres were systematically cleared. The majestic trees fell to the ground. Yet, mesquite possesses an indomitable spirit, refusing to surrender easily. Even when its trunk was severed, its roots remained hidden, silent and patient beneath the soil, waiting for their moment. The trees were burned to make way for cotton fields and poisoned in attempts to cultivate wheat. But the roots, tenacious and deep, extended further than any aggressor anticipated. Despite being cut down, mesquite would invariably return, often sprouting 10 new shoots for every single trunk that was removed. The United States Department of Agriculture, after decades of strenuous efforts to eradicate it, was compelled to acknowledge in 1948 the futility of their endeavor, admitting that mesquite could not be entirely wiped out. But an even more profound transformation was unfolding beneath the surface of the land. The mesquite was not merely surviving, it was actively engaged in healing the ravaged earth. By the early 1900s, ranchers harbored a misguided sense of victory, believing they had successfully conquered the wild. Millions of cattle grazed across landscapes where mesquite once stood tall, and the wilderness was seemingly converted into wealth. This illusion of triumph, however, was short-lived. Within 2 decades, the soil, stripped of its protective cover, began to crack like parched pottery. Rivers that once flowed freely dwindled to dust, and the exposed earth was carried away by the relentless winds. Cattle began to suffer from starvation, and the very tree they had so carelessly eradicated, the tree once dismissed as a pest, started to re-emerge. Ranchers, bewildered by its return, labeled it an invader, oblivious to the fact that it had been a foundational part of the ecosystem long before the advent of fences or railroads. It was then that scientists began to observe something truly remarkable. Where the mesquite returned, the soil itself underwent a positive transformation. Its deep, probing roots actively drew nitrogen from the atmosphere, a remarkable feat that few plants can achieve, and then returned it to the depleted ground, enriching it once more. Beneath the cooling shade of its branches, the soil temperature decreased, allowing grasses to re-establish themselves and wildlife to return, breathing new life into the desert. By the 1970s, ecologists recognized the mesquite's critical role, bestowing upon it the esteemed title of keystone species, acknowledging its function as the silent engineer of the desert ecosystem. Its pods became a vital food, source for deer, javelina, and coyotes, while its blossoms provided essential nectar for native bees. Its resilient wood offered shelter for countless creatures. The tree that the world had so carelessly labeled a weed had all the while been quietly mending the land. This astonishing resurgence of ecological health naturally led to a profound question. If a single tree could withstand millennia of droughts and restore the very ground beneath it, why had humanity ever turned away from such an invaluable resource? By the 1990s, the land itself seemed to be pleading for its return. As droughts intensified across the American Southwest, farmers desperately searched for crops that could survive with minimal water. It was during this period that scientists, driven by necessity, began to re-examine the mesquite tree, a species they had overlooked for a century. In 1993, the USDA initiated studies on desert crops, yielding results that were nothing short of astounding. They discovered that the mesquite flower contained 3 times more calcium than milk and an equivalent amount of protein to that found in eggs, all from a tree that required no irrigation or artificial fertilization. Simultaneously, a paradoxical hunger began to emerge in society. Despite an unprecedented abundance of sugar in their diets, people were experiencing a simultaneous surge in chronic illnesses. Global sugar consumption had surged past 170 million tons annually, and diabetes cases had tripled within a mere 2 decades. Medical professionals desperately sought natural sweeteners that could provide energy without the detrimental health consequences. It was at this juncture that researchers turned their gaze back to the desert. In 2005, a team at the University of Arizona made a groundbreaking discovery. The sweetness of mesquite derived from fructosaccharides, a type of plant sugar that nourishes beneficial gut bacteria rather than causing a spike in blood sugar levels. Mesquite pods boasted a low glycemic index, making them a safe and healthful option for individuals managing diabetes. A single teaspoon of mesquite flour could sweeten a cup of coffee, providing sustained energy without the subsequent crash, offering an earthy flavor profile of caramel and smoke, a taste born from nature's inherent design for balance. One scientist eloquently summarized its significance, stating, "It's the sugar that heals instead of harms." By 2010, health food stores across the United States began stocking mesquite sweetener, marketing it as the sugar of the future. The price soared to an astonishing $20 per pound, transforming an ancient food source into a coveted luxury. Chefs in cities like Tucson and Santa Fe embraced the mesquite, incorporating it into innovative culinary creations, from artisanal bread to creamy mesquite ice cream. The very fruit once suppressed by empires now graced supermarket shelves, nestled alongside familiar sweeteners like maple syrup and honey. Yet, the most profound rediscovery of the mesquite was not solely attributable to scientific research or culinary experimentation. It originated from the realm of collective memory. Around 2012, a quiet but powerful movement began to take root in the deserts of Sonora and Arizona. A dedicated group of indigenous farmers, esteemed elders, and passionate food historians embarked on a mission to resurrect mesquite from the annals of memory and restore it to tangible life. They referred to their endeavor as reclaiming the forgotten tree. Many families still possessed ancient seeds, passed down through generations, carefully hidden in jars for safekeeping. Maria Lopez, a Tohono or O'odham farmer, became a beacon of this movement, recommencing the planting of these ancestral seeds in 2013, meticulously following her grandmother's traditional methods. She buried the seeds near dry washes, places where water once flowed freely, trusting in the land's inherent ability to revive. Within 2 years, her trees were once again laden with bountiful pods. She recounted how the familiar scent evoked cherished childhood mornings, when families would roast the pods for breakfast, a sensory connection to a cherished past. What began as a small act of remembrance blossomed into a widespread movement. By 2018, community seed banks in Tucson and Hermosillo actively began collecting diverse mesquite varieties from across the Southwest. These treasured specimens showcased a stunning array of pods, some as richly red as clay, others a pale, luminous gold. Botanists identified over 30 distinct native species, each uniquely adapted to its specific niche within the desert landscape. The world was gradually awakening to the profound wisdom that indigenous peoples had held for centuries, that true sweetness is not a product of industrial processing, but rather a quiet, organic manifestation that flourishes in the heat. By 2020, the global conversation surrounding food security and sustainability underwent another significant shift. Record-breaking droughts began to cripple agricultural production in various regions. In parts of California, farmland turned into cracked, unusable earth, and wheat yields plummeted by an astonishing 40%. Rivers that had once nourished entire cities dwindled to nothing more than dry beds. Scientists facing these dire circumstances began posing a simple yet crucial question: what plant species possesses the resilience to survive when all others fail? The answer, once again, pointed unequivocally to the mesquite tree. NASA researchers diligently studying sustainable crops for potential extraterrestrial cultivation noted the extraordinary capacity of mesquite's deep roots to extend up to 200 feet underground, accessing water sources inaccessible to any other plant. One scientist aptly described it as less a tree, more a lesson in endurance. Governments, witnessing the tree's remarkable capabilities, began to take notice. In 2021, Mexico's National Forestry Commission launched ambitious programs aimed at replanting mesquite across a staggering 300,000 hectares of degraded land. Furthermore, recognizing the mesquite family's adaptability to arid regions worldwide, farmers in Argentina, India, and Kenya joined in these vital reforestation efforts. The Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations lauded the mesquite as a forgotten crop of survival. The tree that once stood as a potent symbol of resistance against destructive forces now emerges as a vital blueprint for a more sustainable future. Every single pod, every branch, and every intricate root carries with it a powerful reminder. The solutions to the hunger and environmental challenges of tomorrow may already be deeply rooted in the very soil beneath our feet, waiting for us to remember and reawaken this ancient knowledge. If this vault has opened something within you and you find genuine value in these stories, please consider subscribing and activating the bell icon. Every like and share you contribute plays a crucial role in preserving this forgotten wisdom for generations to come. The next vault is set to open soon.